welcome to Multicultural channel. My name is Chad Sharma, and I'm a youth board member of Asian Women of Winnipeg. On today's episode for the educational series, I'm joined with Dalvinder Obhi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited.
Oh, that's nice.
So first, please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so my background is in addictions and mental health. I've been in the field about 30 years now. So that's kind of what I do. So I work with individuals that have, who suffer from like a high level of addiction and high level of mental health. But I've also been working in the Interlake and also in Winnipeg.
Okay, wow, very interesting. What first got you into the field that you're working in?
Actually, that's a very interesting question. I don't know if I picked mental health or mental health picked me, because I always knew when I was little that I would want to do something with people. So I knew that much. Went into university, and I did a lot of stuff with newcomers before I went into university. So I'm like, maybe that's what I'm going to do. Like, I'll work with newcomers and stuff like this. And then slowly, as I went through school and got exposed more and more, here I am in mental health. It's like mental health found me. And and we clicked. Yeah.
That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the most predominant thing that you've seen working in this field for 30 years?
The biggest thing I think I have seen is, actually there's a lot of stereotypes. Okay. So a lot of people assume that addiction stuff only the poor people or only people are down. They don't realize it affects all cultures, all race, all economic status. Mental health and addiction affects everyone. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing I have noticed is that being of Asian person, that I feel that our own Asian people do not go for treatment as much. I think doing this, is a great exposure maybe for people to realize that, okay, maybe something is going on and I'm not doing as well, or I notice maybe that even if my parents are not doing as well, that maybe they need to go get assessed, see if there's medication or treatments, things. So that's the biggest thing I find is that there's a lack. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the thing. And I feel that sometimes, I think when it comes to different cultures and stuff like that, there's a lot of like, oh my God, people are going to find out in the family. People are going to find like that whole shame, right? Like if someone finds out. Meanwhile, mental health is like, people don't realize anxiety, depression, all that is part of mental health. Like it doesn't have to be that, that I am so like having psychosis and you have to be in hospital. Mental health can be something really simple as having like anxiety and learning different techniques to deal with anxiety and breathing and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think that's the thing is that people get scared when they hear the big M word.
What is the big reason behind that stereotype and that not wanting to go for treatment?
Fear. So the fear of, I think, I think there's two. Fear sometimes to admit to yourself that maybe there is something going on that I need to get help. So sometimes that's the scary thing to know. That can also be a lack of education, that you're not really knowing what's happening. So you just assume it's all okay. So some people don't even know that they're having issues. I think the other thing can be, unfortunately, is the stereotype that the family, culture, race has, right? So like if other people in the culture find out, they're going to think less of me or less of my family, like that whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And why do you think it's so important for people to now learn about mental health and the reasons behind the stigma, and that there is a stigma that exists and this is something we need to talk about? What is the impact of people not knowing about?
I think the biggest thing is more we talk about it, more that we make it normal, that it's not a big deal. It's just like things like a long time ago, people wouldn't, like they didn't know about diabetes. They didn't know about like stuff like that. So once they normalized all of that and then realized if you do A and B, guess what? Your sugars can be in control. It's the same thing with mental health. Is more we talk about it and more we make it like an everyday thing, it's going to be less pressure on people than to say, okay, I need help, right? Mm-hmm. And then I feel that, and then realizing that sometimes little simple techniques can help reduce your suffering. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing. I find like your generation is more open, I think maybe because they hear about it more and and to maybe seek some sort of help. Where I find my generation and older, especially older generations, might not even realize that there is an issue going on, and they just struggle in silence. And then my generation's, the whole thing is like, what's the family going to say if I, yeah. So that's the thing. I think as a woman, and sometimes if you're the first one that says it's normal, it's okay, then it makes it easier for the next generation to realize it's
true. And if people don't talk about this and it continues to become a stigma, how does that impact the future of this?
I think I feel if we don't talk about it and we let the stigma go and keep on going, I feel that it's going to get worse, that people are going to get less help. And then I think that's when we flip into the addiction then. Then we're looking at people self-medicating and doing all these other things where they didn't have to if they just actually got on the right treatment in the first place. So I feel that it will be harder in some sense.
Right.
So I think if we can break the stereotypes, that's great. And there's a lot of things, right? Like I find too that I don't think people realize that because we have translators, there's a lot of people out there that speak different languages, that you can actually have your treatment done in your language. Also because we all have an oath that we work with, that everything that comes in therapy stays in that room. We cannot speak about it outside of that. And if it happens, it's a FIA breach, and then the person can say. And I think the other thing is, just because you might have had one bad experience, sometimes people might, they like, don't give up. It's just like finding the right pair of shoes. You got to try some before you realize this is actually fits for you.
In your experience, how do you see mental health being talked about specifically within the South Asian community and within the people that come in for help and that dynamic?
So that's a very interesting one. I feel, and not just South Asian, I feel all Asian communities that on the whole may get treatment less. But I think when they do come in for treatment, realizing it's not as a big deal. And like I said, you can have it in, like, sometimes in your own culture. Sometimes it's better maybe not having it in your own, like having someone who's outside of the culture. But I feel then by talking, like you just said about it, and having more, and then if someone's had a good experience, they're more likely to tell someone else that, guess what, I went and saw this and I'm actually feeling better. So the whole thing is making it a normal thing. It's okay to talk about. Once, I think, if you've gotten treatment and realize it's not bad, you might be even then open to talk to someone else. You know what, I noticed that you're also having issues, did you ever think about doing this? And sometimes things are easy. That doesn't have to be that you have to go for like clinical treatment. Some people, it could be just like, there's so many things on YouTube and all this stuff, like learning different breathing techniques, learning different things. Like that's all part of mental health. People don't realize that. So sometimes even just self-education, there's a lot of really good things out there that you can actually Google, and you'll be surprised. And then it's up to you then to implement them into your life and actually do them. Right. So that's the thing too.
As you mentioned earlier, there are the stereotypes that certain people go to help and certain people don't need help. What is the reason behind that only this group of people, this select group of people? Why is that?
That's that's something I haven't never figured out too, is like why, and I don't know if it's about education, if that's it. I don't really know what the what's behind it. Like if it's like if you have more education and understanding, maybe you would be more open then to go get treatment or talk about something or go and discover something. And sometimes it's even in your own family, like sharing things with your sibling. Oh, I saw this thing, I know that you're having an issue with whatever, and that you share stuff like that. So I don't know if that's more with exposure. More exposure you have, more you can seek things. I find if you're kind of in isolation more, then if you're isolated more, guess what? You're cutting yourself off from anything, right? So I don't know if that makes it then more difficult to even admit to yourself that I need help. I'm not,
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Before you had mentioned that if one doesn't seek mental health assistance, that they might fall into addiction. How do those two things relate?
So this is interesting. Is they're not so far away from each other sometimes, because I think a lot of people may know to themselves that something is off, right? And then sometimes it's easier then to go and find anything that makes you feel well. So a common one is alcohol, right? It's out there and it's legalized. It's easy to have one drink, and then every day you're coming home having a drink. And then you realize every time you're feeling anxious, you have a drink. Every time you're feeling stressed, guess what? You have a drink. Then it can go from now, not when I'm stressed, every time I come home, it becomes a habit. I need to have a drink. Right. So that slowly can build into then that crutch. So the addiction becomes a crutch. And then in some people, then you will equate, oh, I feel better if I have a drink. Then I need to do this. I need to have a drink before I go and talk. I need to have a drink before I do. So then that addiction piece grows and grows. And meanwhile, they don't realize the anxiety that generates it, it's growing also at the same time.
Right. So they didn't take care of the core reason. They're kind of just
masking it
aside.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to seek some sort of assistance.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you envision the future of mental health and awareness, just seeing how it is right now?
I think it's great having young kids like you coming out and talking about it, having it like on the multicultural, having like doing other things that people are out there. I think it's going to become better and better because it's going to become like a commonality, like a common language. It's going to be something that is everyone will talk about. Oh, you have anxiety. Did you try this? Da 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 da. Oh, you're feeling down. Did you ever try like da da da? So I think hopefully that's how things are going. That. With all this exposure, guess what? This is all education, right? So educating each other, and I'm a big believer. If you educate each other, we lift each other up.
Right.
Yeah.
And in order to have that future where this becomes another language, what types of other steps that you might want to see happen? Other steps I feel like having more open discussions, right? So talking more about it, and then maybe even slowly like kind of getting into the older generation and realizing like I think all of it's going to start from your generation that are going to make it seem normal and it's okay, and then that will hopefully be kind of that ripple effect, right? So then it will kind of go and carry. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. But like I said before, is like I really believe in more that we talk about it, the more it's going to actually break down those walls of barriers for people. Right.
Yeah.
So before we end off this episode, for those who are kind of skeptical, I want to, but is there a message that you'd like to share?
Yeah, for a lot of people, I don't know if they realize that the first person you can talk to if you have any issues at all, go to your doctor. You go to your doctor, say, I'm not too sure if something's going on. I'm having a hard time sleeping, whatever it could be. You mention it to your family doctor. Family doctor may say, okay, do you need a medication? Then that might be enough and you're good. Sometimes it might be like, it's kind of finding things that help. Like for some younger generation, like getting into sports, getting into dance, getting into activities and stuff like that helps balance stuff too. So like trying different things, right? And seeing what kind of helps to, like, if you lift your mood or if you're having anxiousness, like I said, Googling something and say, okay, trying different breathing techniques, trying yoga. Like there's a lot of stuff out there. It doesn't all have to be like medication, and not all of it has to be like, I need to be like in deep therapy. It doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes it's all part of that self-care and awareness. If you do some self-care and to address your depression, or your anxiety, and if you feel more of a whole person, that's the best thing in the world.
Right. So those who might find it hard to go out to seek help can be at home, just need Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Right? And then we're lucky in Winnipeg, there's a lot of different, like we have, like clinic has like a, you can call in and talk to someone. So they actually have a lot of different places have that.
Kind of anonymous.
Yeah, you can just call in and talk to somebody. So a lot of different places have that. So sometimes it is doing a little bit of research on your own, right? Yeah. And seeing if you're a person that doesn't want to go out, then looking at what you can do from home, right? So there's different things. And now, because after COVID, a lot of our things now have become like if you're able to get onto the computer, you can do it through Zoom. A lot of stuff are through Zoom. A lot of things are they have like even phone sessions now. So that's the thing is sometimes it's kind of finding what fits you.
Oh, wow. So it's not like, oh, no, this person's going to find out. Kind of like, no.
Yeah, you can do, yeah, totally. It's kind of up to you first to take the first step, right? So first step always is developing that self-awareness and realizing, okay, I feel that something's off.
Right.
Okay, and then kind of identifying what's off and then kind of figuring out, okay, what do I need now to make that better? And it can be lots of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been working in this field for 30 years. I want to know a little bit insight. So we talk about stereotypes and the types of people that come in for help. Can you give a little bit of the reality of who comes in for help?
Actually, you'll be surprised. It's everyone. So like I said before, it can be, so the program that I'm working with, it can be like someone that because I work with adults, right? So I work when someone turns their like, I think 18 up to like 70 something years old. So there's no age range. So people coming in can be any with that age range. They can be young, old. They are coming from all different backgrounds. So there's people that are economically well off. There's people that are struggling that might be on assistance. There are people that are coming from all different cultures. But I do find that like our Asian cultures is still not a lot of people. There's like a handful, but not a lot that come. I am in a specialty program I work with, but even for general, like we actually have like Mood Disorders Association that is a professional program, but they work a lot with people that are at their level, right? So they come and work. So they're not a clinical background, so that there's a lot of programs out here. We have like Schizophrenia Society that work with individuals out here. We also have like, and they're actually in this building, I think. But yeah, so we have like, so there's a lot of programs out there, like, again, connecting to. Then we also have a lot of programs that only target people that are like homeless or people that don't have an address per se. That are on the street. So there's actually youth programs, like there's Ray, and there's a lot of other programs out there. So we are lucky in Winnipeg that there is programs, but again, if you don't have the knowledge about them, right, then you won't know what's going on. So that's the big thing. I still feel that we need somewhere that we can provide this information so that people can tap into it then. Right? That's the like, there's so many programs out there, but again, if you don't leave your home, you don't tell anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a complete lie that there's only a certain type of person that would go for mental health assistance.
Oh, yeah. At one time, it might have been, but now I find that a lot of people are asking. And a lot of times it starts, like I said, a lot of them will go to their family doctors, say, okay, this is what's happening. Family doctors, a lot of them have good knowledge. They'll say, okay, did you ever think about going into this program or get this assessment done? And then with that information from that assessment, they can then build their treatment program and say, okay, this is what you might need regarding medications, regarding like program. And there's a lot of like programs out there. You like when kids, a lot of younger kids, I'm finding, even if they're, because anxiousness starts anytime. You can be a little kid, you can be in like elementary school and feel anxious. So a lot of times they'll be talking to their parents, and then a lot of parents have found getting their kids into sports and stuff has helped, or getting them into dance has helped. So sometimes it's, if you're a kid, talking to your parents, what's going on, right? And then a lot of times for the parents to get the extra support, they might want to talk to the doctor, and then,
But because of these stereotypes, if a kid does kind of find it within themselves, I might want to have help, but they come from a place that they don't want to talk about that, what can that do?
That's really hard. And that's why I find sometimes a lot of kids end up suffering in silence for a long time. That's what I'm hoping that they can do is, first of all, is find a parent, a grandparent, anyone that they can talk to first and say, okay, I'm not too sure that and even as a parent, if you notice, okay, I notice like my kids sleeping all day, they're not up around, sometimes opening that conversation and asking them like, what's going on? Like, how come you're sleeping all day? Like, are you been up really late? What's going on? Sometimes just having that easy conversation with them might be able to let them know, well, I feel sad, Mom, I feel this is going on, and then from there then deciding what you want to do next. So sometimes it's as when they're kids, sometimes it's like the parents who are the caregivers that they have kind of like asking questions.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, sometimes kids are not taken seriously, so that must be quite
it's tough as a kid, and that's why a lot of people may never get properly treated as a kid, but when they get as an adult and they're realizing that these things are not going away and they're still with them even as an adult, and then that time they may then think, okay, now it's time for me to talk to somebody about it.
Okay. So when it comes to educating children about, hey, actually I might want to talk to my parent about this, what types of things could be implemented?
So I don't know now. I know some schools will have, like, I've been around a long time, but some schools will actually have. So sometimes kids will actually tell sometimes to a teacher. They will tell like that, or a teacher will notice something's going on. And some teachers will then talk to the parents, like, okay, we noticed at school this is happening. So that sometimes will open the dialogue. It's really hard as a kid. And I know that there's a lot of programs will go out to the school like the Winnipeg Health Authority has a program that they'll go out and do education at the school. So they actually go out and they'll talk at the school. Because that's a big thing, is just starting to the conversation, even giving the kids in the language so they can think about it. You'd be surprised how many kids are smart. They'll Google things, or they'll check things out and say, okay, I noticed this is happening. But again, you're right. It's like then they have to find a safe person that they can talk to.
Right.
And that's the tricky part sometimes.
Schools should have kind of a designated person, maybe.
It'd be nice if they could. Right. I don't know if they can, but yeah, if they have that, or even the school sometimes will do mental health week, and they'll actually have people come out and talk during mental health week and stuff like that.
I think mental health week and those types of things happening in schools is a relatively new thing. So I think when we get back to the topic on the future, I don't think it was talked about that much in schools before, but I think future generations are getting used to talking about mental health.
Yeah. So like I said, they get to learn, they hear these things, right? So they get to learn, even if they're pretending they don't know, but it's still, after a while, you get mental health week comes and they talk about it. Other people are coming to talk about it. And they Bell Talk comes out, and they actually have, so they have a whole thing, and that's all like by phone, and they do talk about mental health. So all of these things, yes, have been coming around for the last couple of years. They weren't around for a long time. So that's what I'm saying, like the new generation kind of has been hearing all this stuff. So it's not as, I'm hoping that by being more exposed to it, that fear then around it gets less and less.
So when it comes to making mental health the new language of tomorrow, what are some things that we can do today?
I think today, like what you guys are doing, like talking, right? So that's a big thing, is talking about it, and then giving the proper words so that the kids can understand and identify. Because a lot of people will say, okay, like I've noticed that they're not eating, they're sleeping a lot, all these things. Could it be, something else is going on? And then making it more normal. So if you notice that if you yourself have noticed your child or your niece or your nephew that this has been like, just making it part of everyday conversation. You don't have to go say, are you depressed? Are you da-da-da? You don't have to be that. You can just say, look, I have noticed, like, that you're, and this is this and this and this. Like, is anything going on? And yes, they may say in the beginning, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine, because that themselves is a big thing. And then they're letting know if it's not fine,
right,
that you can come and talk to me. So sometimes that's the first step, is like
having a safe place.
Yeah. It's the first step, letting know that, if something's not right, you can come and talk to me. And that's a big thing. And then I feel like, I know this is weird, exposing people to mental health is like, people don't realize that everyone has mental health. Like
everyone has a brain.
Yeah, so we all have, right? So mental wellness is a big deal. So that's a part of your self-care. If you don't have proper sleep, guess what? You're going to be more emotional. If you don't have you're going to be more anxious if you don't do your basics. What basics means, like sleep, eat, all those kind of things, it does affect your mental health, and you can become more emotional. So I like talking about mental wellness. So mental wellness is something that we do to take care of ourselves, right? So that we feel well. So checking in with yourselves and making sure like what is going on, and realizing, okay, if I didn't sleep last night really well, so the next day I'm going to be off, I'm going to be more crabby.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect. And then that's kind of the thing, is kind of figuring out what the cause and effect is. So that's the thing. And mental wellness is great, because then if you in the family show, okay, I feel this way, I'm going to be doing this and this and this, and then guess what? I think the next generation will see, right, that, okay, they're doing this and this, and that it worked for them, so maybe I should try this and this.
Right. Yeah. Well, historically, that's always worked. What has worked before, maybe it can.
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing, is right. So if we talk about it and it becomes more, someone else might hear about this and realize, okay, so it's okay to talk about it. So maybe I can talk to someone about it, and it doesn't have to always be like your mom and dad. It might be your teacher. It could be a friend's parent. Even it could be anyone that you find or you deem that they would understand. And it's safe.
But I find like it's still so hard for people, because people are so stuck in their own ego and their own pride, and no, I am perfect human being, I don't need help. But that's not always true.
No. And that's hard, right? Because yes, that facade that everything is perfect, and you might be great, I'm happy, I hope you are perfect, that's great, but sometimes behind that is the truth, right? And that's the thing, and that sometimes takes time. So that's what I'm saying. If you notice someone is like that you care about, may be suffering, it might be good for you to take the first step towards them and saying, if everything isn't okay, I can help. Or if everything isn't okay, I'm willing to listen. So sometimes just knowing that might help the person realize, okay, I can talk to this person if I want to, when I'm ready. It's hard sometimes to wait for the person to be ready.
It's as simple as that, though.
Sometimes it's simple as that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dalvinder, for your very valuable insight. I hope that all of our viewers get more knowledgeable on this topic so that tomorrow can be a place where mental health is not so much of a stigma anymore. Thank you for watching Multicultural channel.